winners and then we say let's go. So come on, it's time to watch the show. We're talking hardball, Ken Griffey's grotesquely swollen jaw. We're talking hardball, over under on the hot dog.
Live on a Tuesday, it is time for Betting Weekly Hardball. We will give you the answers to your baseball betting questions, brought to you from the Betting Weekly studios as part of Bet Rivers. If you're not using the Bet Rivers app or the website, you're missing out. Doug Kezirian is there. I'm Adam the Bull. Doug, did you have a nice holiday weekend? I know you guys did a show yesterday, but how's the holiday weekend been? I know you're traveling.
Yeah, it's been really nice. I traveled to my college reunion, and 5 years
Oh.
ago, we all remember it was COVID, so everyone
Yeah.
was eager to get back after not seeing one another at reunions for 10 years. So it was a great turnout, really fun. Where have the years gone, right? As we all kind of know that sort of thought process and perspective. But it was great to catch up, and I'm seeing family and friends as well on the East Coast. So it's been really nice to do that. But yeah, like you said, we had a show yesterday. I went 0-1, but Wes Reynolds, nice 2-1 performance. Got some props there. So good analysis, we hope. And of course, we're all leaving money on the table, not fading the Rockies every day.
Yeah, we'll get to the Rockies in a second because they are on obviously an incredible pace to break the all-time record for futility in Major League Baseball. But before we get to that, we got the Logan Webb on the hill, Hunter Brown back on the hill, both trying to bounce back off a rare bad performance. We'll get to that, and we'll get to the Guardians and Dodgers as well. But want to remind you to sign up for the newsletter at bettingweeklystudios.com for weekly betting tips and the entire newsletter, soccer previews, tennis brackets and breakdowns, 32 pages with Bet Rivers odds and all links to all podcasts. Make sure you check it out, bettingweeklystudios.com. You know, if you're an American, we have plenty, I'm sure, people in other countries, but you know, the typical American bettor probably does not know soccer and tennis that well, like they might know baseball, football, or basketball. So we have the inside scoop for you with our guys who do those shows here as part of the Betting Weekly studios. So make sure you're checking that out to get the inside info. In addition to all the American sports, what do you like better, Doug? Soccer or tennis?
I think tennis. It's kind of I'm torn though, because I do appreciate that soccer games start on time. You know exactly how they're going to go.
It's true.
You hang on anytime the ball's like somewhat close to the box, you're hanging on it because one goal can sway everything.
That's right.
And it is a beautiful game. But tennis, a little bit, quicker decisions on some wagers. You can bet per game.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're watching, I feel like the casual fan like myself can sort of deduce who might be better and things like that. Of course, you got to be careful in those situations. But
Sure.
yeah, they both, I'd say tennis from a betting perspective.
Yeah, baseball and tennis are two fun sports to bet in game on because there's just so many different things, and there's there's time to do these things. Let's get right onto the docket here of what we want to talk about today, and we'll begin with the Dodgers and the Guardians. The Dodgers won the first game of this series yesterday. The Guardians coming off a weekend where they took 3 out of 4 against the Tigers. Dustin May will be on the hill for the Dodgers in this one. And for the Guardians, it'll be Tanner Bybee, who's been a very good player since coming up to the big leagues, but has been a little inconsistent this year. But he's coming off his best start of the year. He pitched 7 shutout innings against the Tigers, and you've got to play in this game, Doug.
Well, there's a lot to like, right?
Yeah.
And the Dodgers yesterday, we were kind of thinking about fading them would have the value just because, just the hangover effect of Sunday night baseball. So road teams Sunday night who also have to travel the next night. Wes explained it. There's typically a hangover effect. Of course, the Dodgers bats, it's tough to fade them, and they warmed up and got going. Now I wonder if there's a delayed hangover here. So I was looking at the Guardians as the home dog, but I just feel, and it's sort of a silly take because I've also said the Dodgers, the back half of the lineup, not as strong as you would think. Like they're going to get hot, but until they get hot, I'm okay fading them from time to time, but not at plus 108, plus 109. at where it is the market is right now. And 9 feels maybe a little low, but Ginger Guard pitching how he pitched the last game really dominated the Diamondbacks. I'm looking at a pass here. Just not enough kind of candy for me to get involved with Cleveland here.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I watch the Guardians play every day. I feel like they generally don't get enough respect. You look at them on paper, they're not that impressive, but all they do is find ways to win. They've won as many games as any franchise in the past decade. They're tied for the fourth best record, only a half game behind Seattle for the third. And obviously, our odds makers are showing some respect to the Guardians because most teams, even at home, are bigger underdogs to the Dodgers than this. But yeah, as well as Tanner Bybee pitched last time out, it kind of made me think maybe I'll take the Guardians, but because he's been inconsistent and the Guardians bats for the most part have not been able to get the job done, so it's a situation where Tanner Bybee can go out there pitch 7 great innings and the Dodgers might win 2-0. So so I agree with you. I think that's one to stay away
Yeah, I
from
mean,
as
look,
well.
there's going to be spots to fade the Dodgers for sure. They're not going
Yeah.
162-0, but I don't think plus 107 in this spot. Now, Bybee's been good,
Yeah.
and it's not like Dusty, May is vintage Oral Hershiser, but
Right.
I need more, especially after yesterday. And then that's a pitfall of a lot of bettors where maybe too impressionable by the most recent game. But yesterday was also maybe it should be impressionable because it was a nice reminder that the Dodgers are still the Dodgers, even traveling, and they have some big bats and things like that. So you got to be careful. And I just, out of principle, even Bybee's been good, like you mentioned, but
Yeah.
it's not like he's DeGrom, right? So
Sure.
I'm gonna just need more plus money than that.
And to your point on the Dodgers offense, even with the struggles at the bottom of the lineup, their 301 runs scored is tied with the Yankees for the second most in baseball, only behind the Cubs. So that top of the lineup does so much damage, it makes up for the struggles at the bottom. And Shohei Ohtani, by the way, if you want to bet on like him to hit a home run in the first inning, he's hit a
Like
home run.
yesterday.
Yeah, 2 days in a row, first pitch of the game. And I think Tanner Bybee should stay away from a first pitch fastball against him because Gavin Williams threw a fastball, thigh high that he just took out of the ballpark. And obviously he's totally on fire right now. All right, let's get to the next game on the docket. And before we do, in fact, we were talking about this a little bit off the air there, Doug. The Giants are playing the Tigers. The A's are playing the Astros. And in those games, Logan Webb will pitch for the Giants against the Tigers, and Hunter Brown will pitch for the Astros against the A's. These two guys have been excellent this year. Logan Webb's been excellent for a number of years. For young Hunter Brown, he's been excellent since around the midway point of last season. And you asked me the question, what do you do when a pitcher's been great all year and then he has his first bad outing or a rare bad outing? And so I give you my answer off the air, and I'll mention it as well. But I'd like to hear your take on this, and that's the case with Webb against Flaherty tonight.
Yeah, I mean everything's a juggling act, especially baseball betting. And I would say like everything's extremely nuanced. And Logan Webb, we talked about it last week. I was all in on the Giants, and of course, it was like the one time he got rocked because, in fact, his home road splits are so strikingly awesome at home, and that's been the case for the last few years. And so it was a home outing last week against the Royals, and he got touched up. Now, some of those runs were earned, but still, that lineup was getting to him a lot of hits. Now he's on the road. So already I have some caution, and I don't think the market necessarily is sort of supports the 2-run difference in ERA. So already I'm looking at he's overpriced. And then off the loss, I think he's got enough equity in baseball that we can think it's a one-off. So I'm a pass on that situation. If he were at home, I'd be looking to bet on him. Typically, I think the really good pitchers do bounce back, and I don't know if it's just simple regression or it's a guy's going to bring his A game, so to speak, like be more prepared, get early, mad at himself, something like that. Now, in the case of Hunter Brown, not nearly the household name that Logan Webb is, even though it's not, vintage Justin Verlander. I'm a little uneasy. I am. This is still a guy that may not be that great and just sort of smoke and mirrorsing it a little bit. Now, that's not fair because he has enough outings to make you think he's good, but against this Athletics offense, it's actually A's or pass for me at plus 180. Now, Oakland/Sacramento, whatever, they've been a pretty good bet on team. All things considered, they've been sort of mispriced. This lineup's had some moments, and so has even the pitching staff. So that's a team I'm looking to back. I just don't know, just as a casual better and things like that, I'd have to dig deep into and read a lot about it in terms of like why he didn't have his command. So sometimes there is a reason that a player or pitcher might have had a bad outing, like he was coming off the DL or he was heading to the injured list, things along those lines. But I don't want to take a leap of faith when you have to lay this kind of lumber. So that's the caution. So again, it's all nuanced. It's all matchup driven. In the case of Logan Webb, home road splits also a factor. But yeah, I'm a little impressionable off a guy who's maybe not total Cy Young material off a shaky performance. You start to wonder, but I'd be more inclined to back Webb, but he's on the road here, so that gives me pause.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I don't like either guy. If I had to pick, I'd go with both Webb and Brown, but fortunately, in gambling, you make decisions for yourself. You don't have to pick. I think sometimes people feel this pressure. Oh, I got to make a certain amount of picks every day, or if I don't, I could miss the FOMO, right? You miss out. I don't know. I mean, you talked about the splits. Jack Flaherty, who's pitching for the Tigers, has been better at home than he's been on the road. Now, it is weird. Like the Tigers have the best record in baseball, and yet when Jack Flaherty starts, the Tigers are 2-8, which is just a weird stat. So part of me says, well, the Tigers have been so good that stat should even out. He should win some games even when he doesn't pitch great. Like the team should win the game. But I don't know. The Tigers haven't been hitting particularly well of late, and so I think it's a stay away. And as you said, the Astros are just too big a favorite for me to
And
bet on.
Flaherty's not like anything to write home about. I like the guy. In fact, he
Yeah,
actually went to my high school, so I always root
right.
for him. Very different years, much younger, but I like him. And he was, I think he wants it. He's got an ERA over 4. He's
Yeah.
not necessarily reliable. So
Nope.
that's too big of a number. So I guess even Webb on the road, I would kind of lean there, but
Yeah.
no need to get involved.
No, I agree. Let's go to the next game here, and that's our favorite team to talk about. It is that time. I feel like we need to get a graphic or or a logo or something for every time we
Sponsor.
talk about the Rockies, a sponsor. The Cubs are minus 360 with and Cade Horton's a top pitching prospect, and he's done a solid job for the Cubs so far, but he's barely been in the big leagues, and he hasn't been lights out. So and I know the Cubs lineup has been great, but they only scored 3 runs yesterday against the Rockies. But to be that big a favorite, it's some of that's the Cubs being good and being at home, but a lot of it is just how historically inept the great Colorado Rockies are. And Doug, you had a great stat that you put in our spreadsheet here, which I'd love for you to share with the fans about the Rockies' overall record or the record in the last 23 games and in the last 20, how often they've lost by multiple runs.
That's the thing, right? No one wants to run to the window and bet whatever it is, 380 monster money lines, because even adding them to a parlay, it doesn't really boost the payout that much. And I encourage people in general, especially in a sport like UFC, where the underdogs have such a fighting chance, literally, look at your parlay payout with and without that leg. And why you just kind of are trained to add a leg to boost the just look at it and see if it really makes sense. So even adding a minus 360 doesn't do a ton in parlays. But if you want the action, you're going to the game, something like that, why not? But the thing with the Rockies is they're getting beat up. It's not just they're losing nail biters here. So they are, in fact, 3-20 in their last 23 games. And of those 20 losses, 17 by at least 2 runs. So it's hard not to appreciate the striking contrast in the run line versus the money line. And then you can even lower the run line juice. And the reason for that, it's not as that bad because the Rockies bullpen is pretty bad. So
Right.
you you really want to face it. But with Herman Marquez going for Colorado today in terms of a starting pitcher, I'm okay isolating that. So I like minus a half run in the first 5 innings. So it's a three-way line, much like we find in
Mhm.
soccer. It's
Right.
minus 195. I touched on it yesterday. The three-way line in the first 3 innings, yesterday was minus 120. Today it's minus 127. So basically, that first time through the lineup, you're banking on the Cubs to score a run and then maybe more, and that the Rockies not to do anything. And that's why the shorter sample
Mm.
size, the lower the juice. I prefer the 5 run line here, minus 195. I don't think Marquez can keep this Cubs lineup in check for 5 innings. And I think the Rockies lineup is pretty weak and inept. So I would say the first 5 minus a half, minus 195 is the way to go for this one.
By the way, if you want the Cubs with plus money, you got to lay 2.5 runs. Would you consider that?
I absolutely would. The problem is
Yeah.
it's a 7.5 run line. So we're
Yeah.
not expecting the biggest
Right.
offensive output, but
Wind's
this
blowing
Cubs
in.
team's been on a roll. Yeah, I mean, it could be 6-1, that kind of thing. So I
Yeah.
would look at 2.5, but I just worry about some of the late innings. But the more I think about it, probably should be laying 2.5. But I'm going to go with the minus a half first 5. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I did it last week or so whenever they played the Phillies, and Phillies won that game by exactly 3 runs.
Byron sends us a message on the YouTube chat. Says, "Okay, boys, have the afternoon off. Let's go. Back half of my Dodger lineup is atrocious. Like Bobby's K's under 4.5 plus 117. What do you think of that?
So I
Bobby's
guess my
K's.
question is, why do you like the K's under if you think
Yeah,
the back half of the lineup is atrocious?
that is weird.
Could
I
be a
don't get that.
typo,
Yeah,
right?
I
Could
don't,
be he could
maybe.
have meant
Yeah,
over.
maybe he meant the over. I don't know, but
Calling up
uh,
pitcher props right now.
yeah,
So Bybee, yeah, under 4.5 right now is that's what it is, plus 120. So um I don't know.
yeah,
Appreciate the insight and the input and watching along and playing along, but I would say nothing. I looked at all the props for
yeah.
these games. Nothing jumped out to me in that game.
Well, I get it. We talked about that one, and I don't like that. To me, that's a stay away on that prop bet on the pitching because I'm not confident. I think Bybee would probably go fairly deep into the game, so I could see him getting the 5 strikeouts. But also, he's becoming more of a pitcher than just a thrower, and so there are games where he gets a lot of quick outs and doesn't have the strikeouts. So I agree with you. I'd kind of stay away from that. Anything else in the Cubs Rockies game uh, to look at? I mean,
I mean, there was a stretch where their team totals, their opponent team totals were an automatic bet on, but I
yeah,
will say they've shown some levels of competency, right? They've actually won a game every now and then, every 5, 6 games.
yeah.
They're not getting blasted at the dish, but that's maybe because they're on the road. But um, only a there was a stretch where it was really pathetic. They were losing 8-1, 8-2. Now it's 3-1, 3-0. Yankees poured it on one game, but for the most part, they don't look like a complete punching bag, but that could be just a small stretch here.
Uh, yeah. All right. Over. How about over a half a hit? Sorry, over 1.5 hits for Pete Crow Armstrong at plus 260. The way he's hitting the ball.
Ew. Also went to my high school, same high school as
This.
Flaherty. So I don't know. You just with these situations, like they
Yeah.
may pitch around him. I
You
mean,
never know.
I would need usually in those types of props, I usually prefer stats where a guy's just raking off a guy in his whole life, just sees the ball well.
Yeah.
It's a total outlier matchup because remember, the props are formulated by stats from the entire regular season. So
Right.
if you get a guy who just owns a guy for a while, like Lindor, someone who's been in the league,
Yep.
in baseball for a while, and has a guy, he just has his number. Now, obviously, you run the chance of that pitcher pitching around him for said track record, but in general, that's usually what I need to break out, unless a pitcher's just horrendous and you see some good value and there's a big payout for a home run or something like that.
If you're looking for guys who have had success, I mean, the Rockies guys have never in the big leagues faced Cade Horton. They probably have in the minors. As for major league success, Dansby Swanson has 6 ribbies and a 571 batting average in 7 at-bats against German Marquez. Justin Turner, no, he actually has struggled. Kyle Tucker, 5 at-bats, has 2 ribbies. He's hit 400. It's a small sample size. Ian Happ, 4 for 10 against German Marquez with a home run. Swanson, a home run and 6 ribbies, not 7 ribbies. So anyway, I don't think anything necessarily stands out there. I do like, I had put down that I would lay the Cubs minus 1.5 runs, but I think I'll go 2.5 instead and get the plus money there. They only won by 2 yesterday, but yesterday's game at Wrigley, the wind was blowing in very strongly. It's supposed to be blowing in again today. Obviously, the wind factors at Wrigley bigger than any other stadium, but it's not supposed to be blowing in crazy. It's light winds blowing in, so it probably play more neutral than wind blowing in tonight.
The thing that's tough with baseball props is just it's the beauty of the game, to be honest. You don't know the game situation when a guy is going to be up. You don't know who's going to be up in the 8th inning. And whereas in say the NBA or the NFL, you kind of know the usage rate, you know the matchup, and that sort of helps you with an angle and a prop. But yeah, I mean, obviously Crow Armstrong can go knock the cover off the ball against Marquez.
Yeah.
But you don't know how all those at bats are going to look near the end of the game or throughout the middle of the game.
Catch today's Betting Weekly Game Bet Match with Nigel Seeley and Sean Calvert previewing the men's second round at the French Open, and Betting Weekly Dojo with Nigel Seeley and Neil Channing also dropped this morning, the betting advantages of being at the event. So check out those other members of the Betting Weekly family. All right, Doug, next game on the docket is the Twins and the Rays. We talked a lot about the Twins last week. They had won 13 in a row. Since then, they've dropped 4 of 7. Meanwhile, the Rays have gotten hot with 6 in a row. I think we both kind of thought that once the Twins winning streak ended, they'd revert back to, I think, what they are, which I think is around the 500 team, and that's what we've seen so far.
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday. Chris Paddock was on the bump, and he's been really solid, and he pitched fine. First 5 innings, scoreless game, both pitchers duel. And then the 6th inning, the offense picked up, and it lands 9. So tough one if you had some live unders, things like that. But the Twins have impressed me. To your point, I agree that I did think they were going to be around 500, but since this win streak was snapped, like you said, 3 and 4, and I'm not ready to write them off. It's comes down to pitching in my eyes, and it's kind of we have Joe Ryan who's pitched great, but he's not. Again, we're not really sure if he's going to get it done. And then Taj Bradley, he's been fine too. So this is an interesting game. I was actually considering the under, but because they got to the bullpens late yesterday, I'm a little uneasy. And also, I always wonder if when the bats go silent one day, do they break out the next day and things like that? Although they did already break out, in the 6th inning and on. So I was looking at under 8, first 5 as well, under, but no play on the money line. Still, I guess, considering a first 5 under.
Let me give you I don't even know if it's enough of a sample size to call it a trend. You tell me what you think. Joe Ryan gave up 3 runs in his last start. He's only given up more than 1 run in a start twice this year. He gave up 4 runs against the Astros on April 3rd. He followed that start by pitching 7 shutout innings and giving up 2 hits. He then gave up 6 runs against the Braves on April 20th. He followed that up by pitching 7 shutout innings against the Angels, giving up 4 hits. Like I said, his last start, not quite as bad as those other 2-3 runs, but the only 2 times he's given up more than 1 run, he's followed it with 7 shutout innings. Is that anything? Or is that
nothing?
The
season long enough? I mean, like you said, we're a third of the way through the season. Do we have a sample size? First 5 is 4.5 runs. Unders minus 130. So, gosh, it was like 110. I would definitely be on it. So the question is, in these situations, is it worth the 20 cents? So I may come around, but I do like the under first 5. I want to back on Ryan, both starters as well, Bradley as well, because I think they're going to pitch well enough to get under 4.5.
All right, let's move to the next game. A team we talked about a lot, and the Cardinals and the Orioles. two of the biggest surprise teams for opposite reasons so far this season. You look at the Orioles, we expected them to be very good. They've been terrible, although they have won 3 in a row here. The Cardinals, on the other hand, I thought they'd be mediocre. A lot of people thought they'd be worse than that. They're 6 games over 500, and they're in the mix, at least in both the division and the wild card as of right now. They did lose their last game, but you talked a lot about the Orioles and the Cardinals for does Vegas, do the odds makers catch up with how they really are versus what you expected? And maybe that for the Orioles will now continue to be pushed off since they won 3 in a row. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm reluctant because I was
Yeah.
on him. I was fading him yesterday. I took
Yeah.
the Cardinals, and to your point, the Cardinals have been the most profitable team in all
Yeah.
of baseball outside of the Detroit Tigers. So they're up 6.7 units on the season. And it makes sense, like you said, lower expectations, and they've surpassed those. And then the market's going to take a while to adjust. I'm not betting on the Orioles, but yeah, the auto fade may have hit a wall, like you said, 3 straight. They do have some talent, even though some of it might have been overrated. But I'm in no rush to kind of bet against them. And again, this is virtually the same line as yesterday with the Cardinals' slight road chalk, and it was a one-sided game. So let's face it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
What about
uh,
you, dude?
when I look, well, first of all, I don't love either pitcher in this game.
Right, that's my issue too. I'm
And
not crazy about the pitching matchup.
and as unpredictable as baseball is to bet on at times, when I don't love either pitcher, to me that's almost always a stay away. I want to love one
Right.
of the pitchers. Now, maybe it's unfair. Sagano is a rookie, even though he's not a typical aged rookie at 35 years old, but he's a rookie, and he's been not pretty good overall. But I don't trust him, and I don't trust them. I completely think the Cardinals are fraudulent, and to me, this is a complete stay away game. I'm not.
Is
There's
that the
nothing I
Cubs
like.
fan in you that thinks they're fraudulent or an actual no, I'm just kidding.
No, it's a totally fair question, and I think we talked about it when we first went on the air. I think letting your fandom affect your gambling can screw you up, and you got to be careful of that. I will say when it comes to the Cardinals, even though I hate the Cardinals, I have a ton of respect for that organization. I think it's been one of the best organizations in sports, and I was always the type of fan. Like, there's a lot of fans that talk bad about their rival. I'm respectful of the Cardinals. Now, I don't think they're very good this year. I'm generally respectful. I think they've run their organization amazingly well until the last couple of years. My entire life, it's been a great run organization until the last couple of years. I think they made a lot of mistakes. So you never know. Even subconsciously, you can allow your feelings about a team to sometimes get in the way. But I don't know. I just don't. I don't buy their pitching holding up as the season goes
Yeah.
along. But
That's fair. I think that's
we'll
totally
see.
fair. I mean, but the market's not exactly pricing them as the best team in the league either.
Definitely not.
Yes, they've been the second most profitable team, but
Yeah.
that's in the past up until this point. It's kind of like the futures market when certain guys are still ahead of certain guys, even though the one team or one player's had better performance. They're projecting the rest of the way. So the Cardinals market is the market. And yes, the second most profitable team in all of baseball, but it's all about today moving forward.
Yeah. All right. Next game, the Yankees and the Angels. And here's a team that I feel like I'm already, even though we're only 1/3 of the way through the year, I am ready to admit my mistake. I picked before the season the Yankees. My hot take, my bold prediction was that the Yankees would not make the playoffs this year.
Ooh.
And obviously, I'm already writing that off. And what has shocked me about the Yankees, and I already was not as high on them as most people were. But when Garrett Cole went down, I thought their pitching outside of Fried. Now, I didn't think Fried would be this good. I thought he'd be good, but not this good. I didn't believe in any of their other pitchers. Well, their pitching of late has been absolutely lights out. I still say their lineup is a little overrated, but it's good enough, and Bellinger has really pulled it together the last month. Obviously, Goldschmidt's played well. We know what Aaron Judge is, but the Yankees pitching, that's been what's made them as good as they are, second best record in the American League. their rotation has consistently been good for, I'd say, the last 3-4 weeks, and that's why they are a very tough beat right now. And the Angels, as always, stink.
Yeah, they do. I can't. I mean, you know, you sometimes you hear certain fans talking glass half full sort of approach, and I just
Yeah,
can't get that. Can't. Yankees, though, 33-20, so 13 games above 500, win percentage of 623, but they're only up 1 unit. If you've been betting them every day,
yeah,
that's the key with this stuff is the money line, the great equalizer. So I'd be really careful laying juice for no reason. Now there is reason. Rodon's on the bump
yeah.
for the Yanks, and he's been solid. Like you talk about Max Fried outperforming what you expected this
Oh,
year.
yeah.
Rodon, for me, this is a guy that I didn't
Unreal.
think much of, and not quite an innings eater, but closer to that than maybe an ace. And he has certainly delivered. So Yanks have been on fire. I would look at the run line here. I really would. This Halos offense is nothing, and the pitching is whatever. I think the Yanks, if they win, they're going to win by a couple runs
I
or
agree.
more.
I'd also look to take the prop on Carlos Rodon's strikeouts. He has 80 Ks and 65 and 2/3. The Angels strike out a lot, as we talked about, inept offensively. And to your point, you got to give Rodon credit. A lot of times like Rodon, he stunk his first year with the Yankees in 2023. He was hideous, and then he got hurt, absolutely terrible. And a lot of times when guys start there, there's a lot of pressure playing for New York teams, especially the
Yes,
Yankees. And a
especially.
lot of times when a player stinks his first year as a Yankee, it falls apart for them. There are some guys that just can't pitch for the Yankees. We've seen it time and time again. And his second year, he was okay last year, but certainly not great, certainly not living up to the contract. But he was significantly better than he was in 23. And so far this year, I mean, he's been great. His whip is under 1. I talked about the strikeout numbers. So I like his prop on strikeouts tonight.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I mean, it's crazy, right? DeGrom had no strikeouts yesterday.
Which,
So
yeah,
sometimes it's just you're going to have these outlier
weird.
performances, but you're going to have those in anything. I'll never forget, guys, when I was betting the WNBA before Caitlin Clark arrived and everything. And I was one of the few
Yeah,
guys who did it. And maybe someone would tail me or something. They saw my pick on Twitter or TV or something, and
yeah.
let's say there was a horrendous beat at the end of the game. I'd get see, this is why you can't bet the WNBA. It's like, oh, really? Because there's no bad beats and anything
I
else.
know, it's so
It's like
stupid.
that's the name of the game, right? So you just got to warm up to the fact that I had Skeen's strikeout prop last year, and he had a million two-strike pitches, or 2 strikeouts
Yeah.
that were not strikeouts. So it happens, but um, that's just a reminder that it's all betting, it's all gambling. So be careful out there with kind of thinking you have something nailed. I can see Rodon. I mean, what's funny to me, Adam, as you know, as being a baseball diehard fan, is the Angels typically struggle. Sorry, the Yankees typically struggle out west. Seattle, Oakland,
Yeah.
Anaheim, they don't do well, and they've been fine on this West Coast trip. So it's just I'm already out of my element handicapping their games as they're out west here and actually playing really good ball.
You know, they have traditionally struggled in the past, and they have struggled at times, a lot of years against the Angels. But this Angel team is so bad, and the Yankees are playing so well right now that doesn't scare me in this case. That history, even though it is certainly there, no doubt. Speaking of the WNBA, by the way, you mentioned the WNBA. You mentioned the fact that you mentioned Kristen Clark, and she's hurt.
Yeah,
Uh,
Caitlin Clark's hurt, out at
Kristen Clark,
least two
Caitlin
weeks.
Clark. I knew that sounded wrong as I was saying it. She's
I've
out
been there.
2 she's out 2 weeks. We got an Eastern Conference Finals game tonight, game 4, all part of Betting Weekly Fast Break that's coming up in about 27 minutes, right?
Yeah, like I said, Wes Reynolds on the show. He was 4-1 the last time he was on Betting Weekly Fast Break. That was last Friday. So both the W and NBA combined 4-1 record. We're seeing the ball well now on that show. We did well yesterday, and we have some props for some series props that are looking okay in terms of long shot flyers. But interesting game tonight, right? Game 4, series on the line, just like last night with the T Wolves. T Wolves were unable to take the lead in the 4th and go down 3-1 instead of 2-2. Well, here come the Knicks, a chance on the road to take care of and even up this series. Indiana, a short favorite with Neesmith's status uncertain. So that line is down to 2. I've talked to odds makers. They've taken some sharp money at 2.5. I disagree with it. We'll see what Wes says. He's an Indiana native and Pacers fan. We'll get his read. And there's some props that have been, I don't want to say free money, but they've been cashing every single game in the series. So we'll have a couple of those as well.
All right, sounds good. I'll look forward to that, and I'm fascinated to see what's going to happen in that Pacers-Knicks game tonight because a lot of people in Cleveland want to say, look, the Pacers are doing it to the Knicks too. Well, that all changes if the Knicks take care of business tonight. You had the exciting game last night, and so there's a lot to get into. All right, the rest of the games, real quick, the rest of the slate in Major League Baseball that we haven't talked about. The Braves and the Phillies play tonight, 6:45. Spencer Strider, this guy before his injury last year is one of the best pitchers in baseball. He's made 2 starts so far this year, one on April 16th, and he got hurt again. He came back on a week ago and struggled. 4 runs, only 3 strikeouts, 7 base runners, and 4 1/3. So I think it's kind of a wait and see situation. See if Strider can get back to the pitcher he was, and he's facing Ranger Suarez, who's been, for the most part, pretty good this year. The White Sox and Mets. I'm not staking the whole reputation on this, but I actually could see maybe laying a tiny bit of money on the White Sox on the money line, which is a huge number.
They had him yesterday 1-0, and then the Mets came back.
Yeah. It's plus 230 on the White Sox. Obviously, they're a massive underdog. The White Sox starting pitching continues to be solid. Jonathan Cannon today, and I don't know. We'll see. They shook up their lineup a little bit. Red Sox and Brewers. The Red Sox have been struggling. Don't know who's starting for them as of now. Aaron Savali for the Brewers. Reds and Royals. Brady Singer and Daniel Lynch. Blue Jays and Rangers. Bowden Francis and Nathan Eovaldi. Any thoughts of jumping on the Rangers?
Eovaldi seems cheap. All things considered at that price, minus $1.45. I'd say in terms of the Red Sox you mentioned, obviously they're struggling. What do you make of it when a player takes accountability? I loved it yesterday. One of the guys, I'm blanking on his name.
Rob Refsnyder.
Refsnyder, exactly.
Yeah.
He was so frustrated. He says we suck. I mean, for lack of a better phrase, he said some other stuff. I want my players to care that much.
100%.
And then the question is it a switch you can flip? Should you be betting on them? Not so fast, because I think they were trying yesterday as well.
Yeah.
But they're not. I'll tell you what they're not doing is spiraling, right? They're not a hot mess like maybe Colorado is. So if I liked that side, like the pitching matchup, if we knew who was pitching and stuff like that, then maybe I'd be more inclined to bet on them. But those are ways where you can see sort of player comments, the narratives, how they can help shape your angle for a particular bet.
No doubt about it. Yeah, I'm with you. I wouldn't just bet on the Red Sox because he tried to fire them up, but it's something to keep an eye on. And I expect them to play better just in general.
Yeah,
but I'm not betting on them right now. I don't know who's starting for them. I mean, Aaron Savali, who's pitching for Milwaukee, has made 2 starts and he has struggled mightily, so I don't like him. But I'd probably stay away from that game. A couple other quickies that we didn't mention: the Marlins and the Padres, Max Meyer and Stephen Kolek. The Pirates and Diamondbacks, Mike Burrows and Corbin Burns. Another really good starter going in that one. Big favorite. And
I like Burns. I do. The Pirates we talked about the other day, 26 straight games scoring 4 or fewer runs. That tied a modern era record.
It's crazy.
And then they get 2 in the 9th when they only had 3 runs. They get over. They got 5 runs the very next game. So I believe 2 of the last 3 for two of the 3-game stretch of the weekend, they did go over 4.5, and then yesterday they got blanked. So I'm ready to bet the Diamondbacks with Corbin Burns. I like first 5 innings minus $1.82. Again, just isolating the starting matchup. You have Corbin Burns, you have Burrows, you have the Diamondbacks offense, you have the Pirates offense.
Yeah.
It looks pretty solid.
The Pirates particularly awful on the road. They're 6-20. And finally, the Nats at the Mariners. Mitchell Parker going for the Nats. Logan Evans for the Mariners. All right, let's recap our picks, Doug. Give us your picks for tonight, which will hopefully be winners. Yeah.
Rockies Cubs, we touched on. You're going minus 2.5 runs, I know.
Yeah.
I'm doing 1.5 minus a $1.95. I think the Cubs lineup gets to Marquez early and often, and the bullpen. I think we should have a rocking chair win. I think you should cash your 2.5 as well. I do like the first 5 under. I came around on this one between the Twins and Rays. 4.5 for that game total. It is minus 130 on the under, but I think we have a really sort of shaping up to be a good spot there. And hey, yesterday they went scoreless through 5. Let's hope for that again. And then also, I am going to take the 3-way line with Arizona against Pittsburgh. The Pirates are pitiful. 185 is the juice, so I'll lay the half run in the first 5 at, as it turns out, minus 182.
I do like the Cubs minus 2.5 runs, and I like Carlos Rodon over 6.5 strikeouts today. Finally, from Byron, he says he followed up, said Bybee's not a great K pitcher. And frankly, as bad as the Dodgers' bottom half is, they make contact. When you make your hay, striking out Dodgers is going after Ohtani, Freeman, Smith, and Muncy. He also says, I'm shocked at how good the Cubs are. Kudos to them. He likes the Yankees minus 1, Rodon over 6.5 Ks, a parlay at plus 120. And Texas minus 1, even money. He likes Evaldi over 5.5 Ks at plus 120. I don't mind that one either, the Evaldi over 5.5 Ks.
Yeah, a lot of times we talk about these run lines. Most of the time it's minus 1.5, minus 2.5. I do like the minus 1 sometimes. It's okay to push.
Yeah.
And the same game parlays, you had a prop in there. So yeah, I can get behind some of that, as for sure.
All right, will you take my little league team tonight? We are an underdog. We're getting we're plus 165 today. I'm just making that up, but plus 65.
Well, much like
show some faith.
Much like Rudy Tom Donovan said, never underestimate the heart of a champion. Never
Let's
underestimate
go.
the heart of a youngster, little league. So always
Let's go. We need a big win tonight. All right. Thanks to everybody for joining us. Thanks to Z and Alex for producing today. For Doug, I'm Adam. We'll see you next time on Betting Weekly Hardball.